Today, we have a story about a man named Simon. Simon was on his way to work one morning when he heard a loud noise that sounded like his car hitting something in the driveway. As he got out of his car to inspect the damage, he realized that it was worse than he initially thought. Feeling frustrated and annoyed, he knelt down on the ground to take a closer look. As he was inspecting his car, he heard a terrifying sound that made his heart skip a beat. It was coming from underneath his car, and it sounded like metal scraping on concrete. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of the strange and unsettling experiences that he would have in his new home. You see, a few months ago, Simon had purchased a new home in Luton, England. Despite the fact that the house was being sold for a bargain price, he didn't think much of it at the time. He was excited to have a place of his own and couldn't wait to settle in. Fast forward to his first night in the new house. Simon was exhausted from a long weekend of moving and couldn't wait to get some rest. He climbed into bed and set his alarm for the next morning. But as he lay in the darkness, he heard a strange and eerie sound coming from outside. It was a dull and muted sound, like gravel scraping on metal. What could be causing these noises? Is there something sinister lurking in the shadows? Curious, he got up to investigate, but found nothing out of the ordinary. But unbeknownst to him, something was stirring beneath his very own driveway. The next morning, Simon hopped into his car and tried to back out of the driveway, but to his surprise, the car lurched forward. When he got out to investigate, he discovered that the pavers of the driveway had cracked and the concrete was caving in. Simon was left with a sinking feeling in his stomach as he realized that his new home had been built on top of something sinister. As the dust settled, Simon peered down into the crack in the ground and was shocked to see a mysterious object buried beneath the soil. Using a trowel, he dug deeper and uncovered a piece of rusted metal, but no matter how hard he pulled, it wouldn't budge. Fearing the worst, Simon called in backup in the form of his father, Gerald. Together, they carefully removed the cracked concrete, revealing a rectangular hole in the ground. Descending into the darkness was a rusty ladder that led them to an unknown destination. As they made their way down the ladder, Simon and Gerald couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Why had the secret passageway been hidden underneath the driveway? Where did it lead? Simon's heart raced as he and his father ventured deeper into the unknown. But what they discovered was beyond anything they could have ever imagined. As they climbed down, they found themselves standing in a mysterious passageway that was hiding two rooms. Simon and his father were shocked by what they found. The elderly man who had sold the house to Simon was the original owner and had neglected to mention anything about the passageway. Simon was determined to uncover the secrets of this hidden room, so he ran back to the house to fetch his selfie stick with his phone firmly attached. He lowered it into the hole, and on the phone screen, he saw the two rooms that were hiding underneath his house. The land that Simon's house was built on had been used for something else long before the house was built there. As Simon and his father did their research, they uncovered that the passageway was connected to an old underground bunker from the Second World War. The plot number held a secret that Simon and his father, Gerald, were about to uncover. After conducting some research, they discovered that the land where their house stood had been empty before the previous owners built the house. But what caught Gerald's attention was the strategic location of the land, and with the period in which the house had been built, he knew exactly what it was. "It's an air raid shelter," he exclaimed. Upon further investigation, Simon and his father found out that the shelter had been built during World War II by Sir John Anderson, who was tasked with protecting British citizens from the impending bombings. The shelter was cheap and simple, made with lightweight and flexible metal, and could easily be buried in people's backyards. Over 2 million of these shelters were scattered around the country, but the one Simon and his father found was not an Anderson-designed bomb shelter. Gerald could tell that the shelter was built around 1938, not long after a bomb landed near Luton. Citizens in the area were frightened, and they had to find a better way to stay safe. So they came together and created a community shelter that was constructed from bricks and concrete to better withstand the air raids. And as Simon and Gerald dug deeper into the shelter, they uncovered some unusual artifacts. In one of the hidden rooms, they found a newspaper clipping from the Herald, dated back from the days of World War II. One of the headlines read, "Luton Airport, is this the end?" While other articles detailed the goings-on of daily life in a war-torn country. This artifact offered a rare glimpse into British life during the war, but it wasn't the only relic that they found. Simon and Gerald also found evidence that proved that the bomb shelter had once been stocked up with food and water to sustain the people who hid there. People who were held up in the underground shelters could be stuck there for days at a time, so it was necessary to prepare for the worst. As they continued to explore the shelter, Simon and Gerald marveled at the fact that it had all been made by hand. It was incredible to think that people had come together during such a tumultuous time to build a structure that would protect them and their loved ones. The artifacts that they found were not only a testament to the ingenuity of the people who built the shelter, but also a reminder of the sacrifices that were made during the war. In an interview with Simon, he shared the incredible story of the discovery of the underground shelter that has captured the attention of the world. The walls of the shelter were reinforced with brick and mortar, creating an additional buffer against the raids from above. However, even after Simon and Gerald uncovered the monumental discovery, their work was far from over. Simon explained that they had dug about 5 feet down and still had another 5 feet to go before the shelter was finished. The excavation process was not easy, as there was a lot of rubbish to get rid of. Despite this, they made another discovery when they found a wall had been broken up on a 90-degree angle. Simon speculated that they might find additional rooms, but they were unsure, as they could have been bricked up during the construction of the house. The discovery of the shelter quickly went viral as news reporters and neighbors flocked to Simon's front driveway to catch a glimpse of the incredible and historic find. However, Simon's focus was not on the attention he was receiving, but rather on the importance of preserving the rich history of his country. He didn't want this significant piece of history to be forgotten and felt an obligation to share it with the world. Simon and his father plan to restore the shelter and preserve it, with the hope that it will be declared an important and historical monument. They firmly believe that just because the war is long over, it doesn't mean that this period in history should be buried and forgotten. They want future generations to have the opportunity to visit the shelter and learn about this crucial part of their country's history. The preservation of this shelter is not just about maintaining the physical structure. It's about keeping alive the memories and stories of those who sought refuge within its walls during a time of war. Simon and his father are determined to ensure that their discovery is not lost to the annals of history, but is instead celebrated and remembered for generations to come.